My son said he needed to confess, but when he arrived at my house that night, he wasn't alone. I'd been waiting for 2 hours, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd react. I thought I was ready for the truth. I thought nothing could be worse than the fear and suspicion that had been eating at me for days. I was wrong. The knock came just after 9 o'clock. 3 sharp raps that made my heart jump. I'd been sitting in the living room for so long that my legs had gone numb. I forced myself to stand, to walk to the door, to reach for the handle. My hand was shaking. I opened the door expecting to see Rashad's face, guilty, ashamed, ready to explain everything, ready to ask forgiveness. Instead, I saw her standing behind him. Paula Whitfield, the woman with the healthcare administration job. The woman who'd been at the hospital when I was admitted in February. The woman my neighbor had seen entering my house with Rashad last spring. The woman who, I was now certain, had destroyed my life. And she was smiling. 3 weeks ago, I'd received a $214,000 bill from a nursing home I'd never lived in. The paperwork showed forged signatures, a fake power of attorney, and a Medicaid application I never filed. My son's name was on everything. When I confronted him, he denied it all, but I'd found proof. Hospital forms with his signature authorizing copies of my personal information. And then he'd called, voice breaking, saying he needed to tell me something. "Mama," Rashad said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can we come in?" I stood in the doorway, blocking them. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door, to call the police, to protect myself. But this was still my son, the boy I'd raised alone, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for. "Why is she here?" I asked. Paula's smile widened. "Because Rashad needs support. This is a very difficult conversation for him, Miss Avery. I thought he could use a friend." Friend. The word tasted like poison. "This is between me and my son," I said. "Actually," Paula said, her voice cooling, "it's not. I'm involved in this situation, and I think we all need to have an honest conversation. Don't you want answers, Miss Avery?" I looked at Rashad. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His hands were shaking, his shoulders hunched. He looked terrified, not of me, but of her. I stepped aside. Let them in. They sat on my couch, the couch I'd bought with my first paycheck from the post office 30 years ago. Paula crossed her legs and settled in like she owned the place. Rashad perched on the edge of the cushion, looking like he might bolt at any second. I sat across from them, my hands folded in my lap to hide the trembling. "Start talking," I said to Rashad. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Paula. She nodded. "Go ahead, baby, tell her." "Baby." She called him baby. "Mama, Rashad's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I was just trying to help." "Help who?" "Both of us, you and me." Paula said, "She said there was a way to get you benefits you were entitled to. Medicaid coverage for long-term care, in case you ever needed it. She works in healthcare administration. She knows how the system works. And she said—" "I told him," Paula interrupted smoothly, "that many seniors miss out on benefits because they don't understand the application process. We were trying to get you pre-qualified, Miss Avery, that's all." "By forging my signature?" My voice came out sharp. "By claiming I lived in a nursing home for 6 months?" Paula's expression didn't change. "There were some administrative errors. The facility made mistakes in their billing. We're working to correct them." "Don't lie to me." I looked at Rashad. "Baby, please, just tell me the truth, all of it." His eyes filled with tears. He started to speak. "Rashad," Paula said sharply. He closed his mouth, and in that moment I understood. She was in control. She'd been in control this whole time. My son was scared of her. "Get out," I said quietly. Paula raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." "Not you, Rashad." I kept my eyes on Paula. "Her. Get her out of my house. Now." "Ms. Avery, I don't think you understand the situation." "I understand perfectly." I stood up, my legs steady now, fueled by anger. "You manipulated my son. You used him to steal my identity. You filed fraudulent documents in my name, and now you're sitting in my house acting like you did me a favor." Paula stood too, smoothing her skirt. "That's a very serious accusation. Do you have proof?" "I have documents that will show exactly what I said. Administrative errors, medical billing mistakes, nothing that points to fraud." She picked up her purse, taking her time, making sure I understood she was in control. "But if you want to pursue this legally, Ms. Avery, I should warn you, lawsuits are expensive, time-consuming, emotionally draining. You'll need lawyers, expert witnesses, depositions. It could take years, and all that stress. At your age," she let the implication hang in the air, "your health might not hold up. Someone your age, like I was already incompetent, already weak." "Rashad, let's go," Paula said. "No." Rashad's voice was barely audible. I need to tell her. We can talk about this later. Your mother is upset. She needs time to calm down." "Rashad, stay." I kept my voice level. "Please, just tell me what happened. From the beginning." For a long moment, no one moved. Paula stood by the door, her hand on Rashad's arm. Rashad looked between us, torn. Then he pulled away from Paula. "I'm staying." Paula's expression went ice cold. She looked at me, and there was something in her eyes, calculation, fury, threat, that made my blood run cold. "You're making a mistake," she said. "That's my decision." "Fine." Paula opened the door. "But you should know, Ms. Avery, there are other documents, things you don't know about yet, things that might surprise you," she smiled. "I'll be in touch." She left. The door clicked shut behind her, and Rashad collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands, sobbing. It took 10 minutes for him to calm down enough to speak. I got him water, watched him drink it with shaking hands. His eyes were red and swollen. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. I sat beside him on the couch, close enough to show I was listening, far enough to protect myself if this was another lie. "I was in trouble," he finally said. "Money trouble. I got laid off last winter, and the new job paid less, and I had child support and debts, and..." He took a shaky breath. "I met Paula at the hospital when you were there in February. She seemed so nice, so helpful. We started talking, and she understood what I was going through." "She worked at the hospital?" "No, she was visiting someone. But she works for a healthcare management company, handles insurance claims, billing, that kind of thing. She knows the system inside and out." "Of course she does." "We started dating, and one night I told her about my money problems, how I was drowning, how I didn't know what to do." Rashad wiped his eyes. "She said she could help. She said there were programs, legitimate programs, that could provide financial assistance for families with elderly relatives. She said you qualified for benefits you weren't using." "What benefits?" "Medicaid long-term care. She said we could apply for pre-approval, and if you ever needed nursing home care in the future, it would be covered. And there would be some relief for family caregivers too, money to help with your care. But I don't need care. I'm perfectly healthy." "I know." His voice rose, desperate. "I know that now. But Paula said it was just paperwork, just applications. She said it wouldn't affect you at all, that you'd never even know, and that it would help me get back on my feet." I felt sick. So you gave her my information. She asked me to get copies of your insurance cards, your Medicare number, just to file the applications, she said. So when you were in the hospital, I authorized copies of your documents. I thought it was harmless. And then, Rashad's hands were shaking again. Then things got complicated. Paula said the applications needed more documentation, medical assessments, proof of need. She said she could handle it, that she had contacts who could help. I just had to sign some forms. What forms? Power of attorney, guardianship papers. She said it was standard procedure, that it didn't actually give me any real power over you. It was just bureaucratic stuff for the applications. He signed away my rights. He gave her control over my life. Rashad, those forms, those are legal documents. Power of attorney means you can make decisions for me. Medical decisions, financial decisions. I know that now, but Paula said, she kept saying it was just paperwork, that it didn't mean anything unless you actually became incapacitated. And then she showed me these forms that said I'd already been named your power of attorney, and I thought maybe I had signed something years ago and forgotten about it. He was lying to himself, or Paula had manipulated him so thoroughly he couldn't see the truth anymore. When did you realize something was wrong? When you called me about the bill, I panicked. I called Paula, and she said it was a mistake, that the nursing home had billed the wrong person, that she'd fix it. She told me to deny everything, to act shocked, to tell you it was identity theft. But it wasn't identity theft. It was fraud, Medicaid fraud, and you helped her do it. Rashad's face crumpled. I didn't know, Mama. I swear I didn't know what she was doing. I thought it was just paperwork. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe my son was just stupid, not criminal, just desperate, not malicious. But I couldn't shake Paula's parting words. There are other documents, things you don't know about yet. The next morning, I met with Marlene Knox and Renee Patterson at Marlene's office. I'd called them before dawn, unable to sleep, and they'd both agreed to come in early. I told them everything Rashad had told me. Renee's expression grew darker with every detail. This is worse than we thought. How much worse? She pulled out a folder, the documents from Harmony Ridge, now covered in her handwritten notes and highlighted sections. I've been going through these with a fine-toothed comb. The medical assessment that claimed you needed long-term care? It's completely fabricated. The social worker who supposedly conducted it, Sarah Henderson, had her license suspended 2 years ago. She shouldn't have been doing any assessments. So Paula hired someone to fake it. Not just fake it. Look at this. Renee showed me a page. The assessment includes detailed observations about your physical and cognitive state, your supposed inability to dress yourself, feed yourself, remember basic information. This level of detail suggests either someone spent time observing you, or someone who knows me well provided the information. I finished. Rashad. Marlene leaned forward. Did he say anything about describing your health to Paula, or filling out questionnaires? No, but he said he signed forms. Maybe some of them were assessments. If he signed documents claiming you were incapacitated, that's a crime, Marlene said, even if he didn't understand what he was doing. The weight of it settled over me. My son was going to face charges. My son was going to jail. Unless, what if he cooperates? I asked. What if he testifies against Paula? Would that help him? Marlene and Renee exchanged glances. Maybe, Marlene said carefully, but we'd need to build a strong case against Paula first. Right now, all we have is Rashad's word that she masterminded this. We need evidence. I'll get you evidence, I said. Over the next week, with Marlene and Renee's guidance, I became a detective in my own case. We requested records from Harmony Ridge. We interviewed Dr. Lionel Avery, the physician who'd supposedly overseen my care. He'd never heard of me. We tracked down the nursing staff whose names appeared on my charts. Most had never worked at Harmony Ridge. The facility administrator, Jerome Ellis, became increasingly nervous as we asked questions. His hands fidgeted with paperwork. He kept glancing at the door like he wanted to escape. Finally, after the third round of questions about the admission procedures, he cracked. He admitted that Paula Whitfield had handled all the administrative work for my admission, everything from the initial paperwork to the billing submissions. She'd provided all the documentation. She'd assured him everything was legitimate. She'd even handled the Medicaid approval process, which he admitted was unusual, but he trusted her because she worked for one of their contracted companies. "She works for one of our contracted billing companies," he said. "We trusted her." "So she had access to your systems, your forms, your letterhead?" He nodded miserably. "We're cooperating fully with the investigation. We don't want to be implicated in fraud." Too late for that. But his cooperation gave us something crucial: Paula's employee records, her real name, her work history, and a pattern. She'd done this before. Renee found 3 other cases in her research, 3 other elderly people, all in different counties across the state, all with adult children who had financial problems just like Rashad. In each case, the elderly person had been admitted to a nursing home they'd never visited. In each case, someone had filed for Medicaid benefits on their behalf. In each case, substantial amounts had been billed and paid. And in each case, when Renee dug deeper into the billing records, Paula Whitfield's company had processed the claims. The amount stolen totaled over $500,000. "She's been running this scam for at least 2 years, Renee said. She finds vulnerable families, targets the adult children, and manipulates them into providing their parents information. Then she creates fake admissions, files for Medicaid, and collects the payments through her billing company." "What happened to the other families?" "2 of them paid the bills to avoid legal trouble in the stress of fighting the system. One family is still fighting, but they're losing, drowning in legal fees. None of them realized it was a coordinated scheme. They all thought they were isolated cases, random bad luck, a terrible mistake. Paula made sure each family felt alone. Until now." Marlene smiled grimly. "Until now. We have enough to go to the state fraud division. Multiple victims, a clear pattern of fraud, billing records showing Paula's involvement in all of them. This isn't just about you anymore, Lenora. This is a criminal enterprise. And with Rashad willing to testify about how she recruited him, how she manipulated him, we might actually be able to take her down." My phone rang, Rashad's name on the screen. I answered. "Rashad." Silence, then heavy breathing. "Rashad, are you okay?" "Mama." His voice was wrong, tight, scared. "Mama, I need you to stop. Stop investigating. Stop asking questions. Baby, what's wrong? Where are you? Just stop, please, before someone gets hurt. Rashad." The line went dead. I tried calling back. No answer. I tried texting. Nothing. I looked at Marlene. "Something's wrong. Paula got to him." That afternoon, a woman showed up at my door. She was in her 40s, professionally dressed, with a state ID badge clipped to her jacket. "Ms. Lenora Avery?" "Yes." "I'm Inspector Naomi Briggs from the State Fraud Division. May I come in?" Finally, someone official, someone who could help. I let her in, offered her coffee, started to explain everything. "Miss Avery," she interrupted gently, "I'm not here about your case. I'm here to inform you that your son, Rashad Avery, was arrested this morning." The room tilted. "What?" "He's been charged with elder fraud, identity theft, Medicaid fraud, and forgery. He turned himself in voluntarily and is currently being held pending arraignment." Turned himself in? Why would he? Unless Paula forced him to. Unless she told him to take the fall. "He had a lawyer with him," Inspector Briggs continued. "Someone named Paula Whitfield. She identified herself as a paralegal working on his case." The world went still. "She's not a paralegal. She's the person who orchestrated this entire scheme." Inspector Briggs frowned. "Ma'am, Ms. Whitfield provided documentation showing her credentials, and she's cooperating with our investigation. In fact, she's the one who brought your son in and provided evidence of his involvement in the fraud. No, you don't understand. She's playing you. She's making Rashad take the blame for everything she did. Miss Avery, I understand this is difficult. Your son has confessed to forging your signature, filing fraudulent documents, and stealing your identity. Ms. Whitfield has provided documentation showing that she tried to stop him, that she urged him to confess, and that she's the one who ultimately convinced him to turn himself in. She's smarter than all of us. She's been planning this from the very beginning, not just to steal from me, but to create a perfect escape route. If anyone caught on, if anyone started investigating, she'd already prepared Rashad to take the fall. She'd documented everything to make him look guilty. She'd positioned herself as the concerned girlfriend who tried to stop him. Every step calculated, every move planned. "I have proof," I said. "Other victims, other cases where Paula was involved. I have. We're aware of the other cases. Ms. Whitfield has provided information suggesting your son was involved in those as well." Inspector Briggs stood up, pulling out a document from her briefcase. "I need you to look at this, Ms. Avery. It's a competency petition. It was filed last week." I took the document with numb fingers. It was a legal petition to have me declared mentally incompetent, filed by Rashad Avery, supported by medical documentation from Dr. Lionel Avery, recommended by social worker Sarah Henderson. All fake, all part of Paula's scheme. And at the bottom, a court date, 2 weeks from today. "If this petition is approved," Inspector Briggs said quietly, "your son will become your legal guardian. He'll have control over your finances, your property, your medical decisions, everything." I looked up at her, the paper shaking in my hands. "She's going to win," I whispered. "She's going to take everything and make it look like Rashad did it all." Inspector Briggs's expression was sympathetic, but firm. "I suggest you get a very good lawyer, Ms. Avery. You have 2 weeks to prove you're competent, or lose control of your entire life." She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a judge's gavel. 2 weeks, 14 days, to save my life, to save my son, to stop Paula Whitfield before she destroyed us both. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd opened that first bill 3 weeks ago, the same table where Rashad had sat and lied to my face, the same table where I'd raised him, helped him with homework, celebrated his birthdays, taught him right from wrong. And now I was holding a document that said I was incompetent, that I couldn't make my own decisions, that I needed a guardian. The petition was thorough, frighteningly thorough. It cited my inability to manage finances, evidenced by unpaid bills, my cognitive decline, supported by medical assessments, my unsafe living conditions, documented by home visits I'd never received. Paula had thought of everything. I looked around my kitchen, clean, organized, the dishes washed and put away, the bills paid on time. I had bank statements to prove it. The medications I took for mild blood pressure, properly organized in their weekly container. I was fine. I was capable. I was sharp. But would a judge see that? Or would they see a 58-year-old woman with a son claiming she couldn't care for herself, backed by official-looking documents and medical opinions? 2 weeks. That's all I have. 2 weeks to prove I'm not losing my mind, even though sometimes I wonder if I am. Because what kind of world lets someone like Paula Whitfield destroy lives and walk away clean? My phone rang. Marlene. I answered. They arrested him. Rashad. I know. He just called me from jail. Lenora. He's terrified. He says Paula told him if he doesn't cooperate, she'll make sure he never sees his kids again. She has photos, messages, things she says will make him look like an unfit father. More manipulation. He wants to testify against her, but he's scared. And honestly, I'm not sure it'll be enough. Paula has covered her tracks well. She's positioned herself as the whistleblower, the concerned citizen who tried to stop your son's fraud. The prosecutor is calling her a hero. A hero. The woman who destroyed my life is being called a hero. What about the competency hearing? I asked. We'll fight it. We'll bring in your bank records, your medical records, character witnesses. We'll expose Paula's pattern of fraud. But Lenora, Marlene's voice dropped. The burden of proof is on us. We have to prove you're competent. And Paula has a lot of fake documentation saying otherwise. So what do I do? You live your life. Document everything. Keep meticulous records. Show up to every meeting, every appointment, every court date looking sharp and capable. And you pray that the judge sees through Paula's lies. After we hung up, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to my bedroom closet and pulled out the old photo albums from the top shelf. Pictures of Rashad as a baby, his first day of school, his high school graduation, his face beaming with pride and hope. That boy in those photos would never have done this to me. But Paula had found his weaknesses, his desperation, his debts, and she'd used them to turn him into a weapon against his own mother. I will not let her win. I will not let her take my life, my home, my freedom, even if it means watching my son go to prison, even if it means losing him forever, because some things are worth fighting for, and my dignity, my right to control my own life, was one of them.